Oh, my hair's gonna be terrible. I'm like sweating and stuff. Really
All right, guys, we're here with Dan from Nero, and he just finished up a wicked dubstep set up in the VIP room for the Scion tour, and we're just gonna ask him a couple questions about how that went. So, Dan, what are your impressions of Minneapolis so far?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I can't believe, it's such a great turnout on a weeknight. It's just really, really cool because I kind of come here and you're not quite sure what to expect.
Yeah.
This is kind of like our second tour of the States. So you just never know what you're going to get, really. So it's just awesome to turn up tonight, and it's just like the queue apparently was going around the block and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. And it's great that, dubstep's sort of starting to reach all the corners of the US now, which is really, really great.
What's the scene like in the UK? Is it like definitely more mainstream and popish there, or like how would you compare both?
I think it's getting that way, actually. It's starting to get now that you're getting quite a bit of dubstep turning up on the Radio 1 playlists, which is like the daytime kind of stuff. So like right now there's 3 dubstep tunes in the playlist, so it's definitely kind of going that way. I think it really kind of one of the main things that really pushed it along was kind of the work that Chase and Status have been doing.
Love them.
So obviously doing the Rihanna tracks for her album, and also doing the Jay-Z remix, and Snoop Dogg doing the Slumdog Millionaire track over Eastern Jam. So I think that really pushed it into the limelight in the UK, but I think especially in the States actually. I think Snoop jumping on that track just really we've noticed a difference, from playing here last year to after that. I found it we found it's really, really kind of catching on over here, which is awesome.
So we should note that your production partner is not on tour with you, and you're soloing it.
I'm soloing it at the moment, yeah. Basically, I'm doing half the tour, and then I go back, and then he comes out and does the second half, basically. So, yeah.
So you had one show that was kicking off the Scion tour last night?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really good as well.
Cool.
Same thing, just weeknight, absolutely
Lots of fans.
packed. Yeah,
Nice.
it's really great.
So I, in particular, am familiar with your remixes that you've done for Drake and Calvin Harris and Boy Crisis and Fresh, and they just have been so crisp and clean and amazing. And I'm wondering, are those remixes that you were commissioned to do, or did you kind of approach the artist and say, I really love this track, let's do it?
Actually, all the ones you named, we were actually commissioned to do.
Oh, cool.
But we did a remix for The Streets, Blinded by the Lights, which we actually just did because we thought we'd make a really cool dubstep track, and we just did that off our own back actually. And then it turned out that Mike Skinner, the lead singer of The Streets, he heard it and was kind of tweeting about it, saying can anyone kind of put me in touch with Nero? So we got in touch with him, and that kind of happened. So there's been a couple of tracks that we've actually kind of thought that would make a great dubstep remix and done it, and some of them have got released, and a couple just remained just bootleg kind of things,
So I guess changing gears, do you know much about this club, First Avenue, and sort of the lore that it has in the music scene at all?
I don't. I have no idea. But I'm walking around here and I'm seeing all these stars around with names. Just over there's Joe Cocker,
Yeah,
So,
and just over there is the Purple Rain star, because Purple Rain, part of it was filmed here, and
Really?
Prince has performed here many, many times.
Wow.
And
so Prince is actually a really big hero of ours. Yeah,
cool.
We're big time into Prince. So that's actually, I didn't know that. That's actually sort of.
I was wondering
really,
if they filled you in or not, but
no, they haven't. In fact, yeah, actually, I've seen video of Prince performing just after the Purple Rain album came out.
Right.
And actually, the venue looks very similar to it. Might have even been here.
Yeah, it used to be an old Greyhound bus station, and then they filmed most of Purple Rain was filmed on that stage right there.
Wow.
So
A lot of
yeah.
history then.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Wow, I'm honoured to play here then.
Cool.
It's really great.
So something I always wanted to ask a dubstep act was what will you do if dubstep becomes extremely pop and your values remain underground? How do you reconcile something like that?
That's a really good question. It's something that gets talked about a lot, because I think dubstep came from a very underground kind of scene. So there's a lot of people that you kind of get the impression, they kind of want it to stay underground, and they feel like it's theirs. And we get that with us as well. You get certain fans who feel like when we were in the early days, they felt like they'd kind of discovered us and we weren't that big. So they kind of feel like, with their artists, and they kind of get a bit annoyed when we start going a bit like doing remixes for big mainstream acts. But I think, you know, you've really got to forward things. You know, you've got to push things on and innovate the sound. And you know, I don't think we'd ever write tracks to be poppy and to get you know, played mainstream radio. You know, we just write what we like writing. Yeah. And if it gets picked up by the radio, then that's kind of great. But we would never like write specifically for that kind of, you know, mainstream kind of thing.
So when you're like, tell me about the process. Like, do you hear a song and you go, oh my gosh, I could totally hear that having a dubstep, like, you know, beat to it? Or like, how do you get interested?
Is it like with remixes or with like
with like
our
remixes,
original work?
With remixes,
like,
in particular.
Yeah, well, we'll get sent like a remix, you know, or like we'll get sent the original track and be asked if we'd be up for remixing it. And yeah, you know, you can normally sort of hear the potential in the track straight away. You know, sometimes if you get a track that's like a really odd tempo, you just know that like by the time you kind of come to sort of time stretch the parts, so to speed them up to the tempo you want them, they're going to start sounding a bit silly and a bit rushed. So you do have to kind of pick things that you know you can kind of hear it, and like you say, you know, you can hear it and you know will cross over into a dubstep kind of sound. So
what about your original production then? Like, I know you started off tonight's set with a couple of your original tracks and that have become pretty big. They were top popular on Hype Machine for a long time.
Yeah.
So tell me about like the story about a couple of those.
Well, I started with Innocence actually, which is like our last single, which is actually which was the first single from the album, which hopefully is going to be coming like early next year now. And yeah, that just did like really, really well. You know, we were so pleased about how that kind of seemed to kick off. And then for the next, we're just basically like working towards the album now. So we're sort of, right now we've just finished the next single, which we're starting to play. I actually played that like last song tonight.
And what is that one called?
It's called Me and You.
Okay.
Well, I say that I probably should, like, there's actually debate whether it's going to be the next single at the moment, but like we're pretty sure it will be. If it's not, it'll be the one after, basically. But like, yeah, it's I think it's sort of it's quite a good crossover song. It's got quite rocky kind of influences, but it still, I think, stays true to like the Nero sound.
Cool. So let us know when to expect the Nero album and what, you know.
Yeah. Well, basically, like we're sort of, you know, we're kind of taking a month out of the studio to do this tour. It's quite a big tour. And then like as soon as we're back, you know, we're straight back in the studio. We've got kind of like 20 songs that are sort of like, you know, ideas from kind of being like really early ideas to kind of almost finished. And so it's going to be a case of just sort of gradually whittling them down to sort of like a 12, 13 track album. So we're definitely like well on the way. And like you can expect sort of you know, quite a mix-up actually. It's not just dubstep. There's like it'll be some, obviously there's a few drum and bass tracks on there. It's mainly dubstep with a couple of drum and bass tracks and a few like kind of French electro choppy kind of house tracks, because we're like really into that stuff.
So last question, and I've never asked a dubstep artist this. So what do you think about, do you think that dubstep has pushed drum and bass into obscurity even further? Like, as someone who likely likes drum and bass?
Yeah, well, it's weird because we started off as drum and bass producers.
Right.
And then kind of for us, I think got better known as dubstep producers in the end. But it's difficult because I think at the moment dubstep's sort of a bit fresher on the scene.
Right.
There's a lot more avenues you can explore with dubstep. Whereas drum and bass right now is kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall.
Right.
Yeah, there's sort of like there's not much kind of out and about at the moment. I'm sure it will pick up again. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But it is definitely like in the shadow of dubstep at the moment.
So you think it'll come back around like in cycles, like music does?
I think it probably will do. I mean, like drum and bass probably still gets more main kind of radio play on Radio 1 in the UK, just because it's sort of tried and tested and it's known. And it's really like only now that dubstep in the UK is starting to kind of seep into the playlists and stuff. So drum and bass is still like definitely like a big force in the UK. But what's quite interesting is I've noticed like whilst they're probably kind of similar, maybe dubstep has a slight edge in the UK, like drum and bass definitely in the US does seem to have like dropped back a lot. Like I played some drum and bass tonight, and you know it really went down, but you just feel like the energy's not there quite as much as when you're playing dubstep.
Yeah, so, it's not as fresh anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like it might have run its course here for the moment, but I'm sure it'll be back. It just takes like a few really, you know, special kind of innovative tunes to kind of, you know, switch the sound up to a new direction, I think.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much, Dan. We really appreciate you talking to City Pages, and we'll definitely be looking for your album early next year, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, see ya.